Are you tired of feeling unhappy in your relationship? Are you feeling like you're always walking on eggshells? Or do you decide to go out of your way to not do the things that you love, hang out with the people that you want to hang out with, just to help resolve a situation that hasn't even happened yet? Do you feel like you're being controlled? Have you lost friends? If you answered yes to any of these questions, this episode is for you, girlfriend.
Girl, stop talking. All the shit that people are thinking but not saying. Men, if you're listening, I apologize in advance. Women, hey bitches, are you ready? Are you still talking? Girl, stop talking.
Happy fucking Monday, bitches. Okay, I'm back. Another solo. I told you guys in my last solo that I felt called, I felt inspired to kind of share some of my own relationship drama and growth and trauma with you guys, because I just keep finding myself in these situations in my day-to-day life of other people that I feel like could use a voice of reason, use a friend, use a girly that they understand she's been through it too. Hi, hello, it's me. I wish I had me in my earlier 20s, because could have saved me so much drama. But anyways, before I continue on for this week's episode, because we're just going to pop on right into it, girl. Before I continue, if you haven't listened to my last solo, Rumor Has It She's Desperate for Love, go listen to that first, because this is a continuation story of my relationship dilemmas, along with a step-by-step process on how to make the decision to set boundaries, stand up for yourself, to overall live a truly happier life. Because that's what we want, okay? I want all of you, all of my girls, to be happy, hot, and healthy, okay? And that's what we're striving for. So no more shitty men, no more excuses, no more fucking drama and trauma, because summer is here, girlfriend, and it is our turn, us millennials, to have a good fucking hot, healthy summer. And this is the start of it. Sometimes you need a little tough love from your girl, and if you're one of my close friends, I know you hate it. I've learned to keep my mouth shut, but you know what? This is my platform, and this is where we don't stop talking, okay? So I quickly want to recap, because it's been 2 weeks, and my last solo, I talked about my most crazy relationship and why I decided to continue, or how I've continued to pick the same person over and over again. And I have been doing some reflecting on all of that, and I wanted to share with you guys how to move forward from those relationships, how to end them, how to heal from them. And so this is the start of that in this week's episode. I have written a step-by-step guide to get you there, girl, because if you are struggling, or if you have a friend that's struggling, or you have struggled in the past, we can all relate to dating a not shit man. Ladies, if you're still with them, maybe listen to this in silence. This is all tough love, girl. I'm going to hit you with half heartache, half healing, because we can't go full send into the trauma without laughing a little bit about it, you know? I am healed, so it is fine. I can laugh about my trauma. We can all laugh about it together. In the last episode, I talked about really needing to understand why I kept ending up in the same relationship. And so this is where we're starting. Step number 1, get out a pen and fucking piece of paper, bitch, because you're going to want to write this down. Number 1, be honest with yourself. It's time to look inward and really start to ask yourself why. Why, just like last week's episode, do I continue to end up in the same relationship? Why do I continue to pick the same guy in a different body? What is it about me that is allowing this behavior in my life? Why am I okay with being treated this way? It's time to really sit down and look at your relationships and honestly compare all the bad ones that you've had. And if you're currently in a bad one, like what about that relationship have you slid under the rug? What red flags have you allowed to continue to be a part of your life? Some questions to ask, some other questions to ask. Am I accepting the bare minimum? Am I choosing to ignore the red flags? Because once you're able to take accountability for your actions, you can understand why you allow these men to treat you this way. But if you are still sitting in the poor me, I'm the victim, bad things happen to me, if you're still sitting in that mentality, you're not holding yourself accountable because, baby girl, you have to understand, you are also the one that keeps ending up in these relationships. So it's time to look inward. Be honest, brutally honest with yourself. What is it about me that is allowing this behavior? And as you guys know, in the last solo episode that I did, for myself personally, I was desperate for love. I was desperate to be loved by anyone at that point, that it did not matter to me who was giving me that attention. Was it actual love? No. I know in the last episode, I talked about how I realized in both of these substantial relationships that I had, they asked me, what is it that you love about me? And I literally could not answer because it wasn't love. I would tell them, I love you, I'm in love with you, but I couldn't even be honest enough with myself to tell that, to know what is it that I love about them. Because the fact of the matter is, I didn't love anything about them. I was making excuses for them. And I think for me personally, once I realized that I was allowing this behavior, that I had control over what I wanted to accept, that's when it changed for me. I remember after that night that my ex smashed the windshield to my car with his hand, I remember being so scared and being done. I think I explained in the last episode that I was done. I deleted him off of everything. I blocked his number. I told him to leave me alone. I wanted nothing to do with him because I couldn't involve my child in this domestic violent relationship that meant so much more to me. Excuse me. And that was one of my reasons why it was easier, I believe, for me to leave, because I had someone else to fight for. But even with that, I remember I was still sharing my location with this crazy ex, and I didn't realize it. And we were kind of texting, but not really. And that's when they do something bad and then they slide back in and they're like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, please just let me explain, I'm gonna change, I'm never gonna do that again, that's never happened. They give you all of these reasons. They give you basically crying fucking crocodile tears, getting on their knees, begging and pleading for you back. And I just remember feeling truly so uncomfortable. And this should have been a red flag. I didn't realize, I think when we were texting, he was asking me, well, where are you? Blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't feeding him, at least I didn't think I was feeding him clear information. And I vividly remember being at Chick-fil-A, standing in line with my son, about to order food, and he walked through the door with a bouquet of flowers. As I was ordering, comes up and surprises me after breaking the windshield to my car, blocking him off of everything, he ends up finding me at this Chick-fil-A with a bouquet of flowers. And every young girl behind the counter was like, oh my God, that's so sweet. How sweet. He just surprised you with flowers. And I just remember standing there being like, you have no fucking idea what is going on behind closed doors. And obviously he literally found me like spooky. And that kind of opened the door again to me letting him back in. And I did. But before I did, I really felt like this could not happen again. I was like scared. Thought I was trying to be strong and stand up for myself and have boundaries. And I told myself, like, I will not allow this to happen again. I shouldn't have even taken him back, because to think that it was going to get better, girl. Oh my God. I'm like laughing because I'm uncomfortable, I think. To think that it was going to get better was foolish. And we had a long talk, I remember, like in Chick-fil-A, and later that night we had planned to, come back together and have this like bigger long talk about the whole situation. And I remember like after that meeting in Chick-fil-A feeling so uncomfortable about accepting this person back into my life because of like how it was already emotionally abusive, but now it's turning physically abusive. And it felt wrong. Like my body response was, be concerned, have up a wall, you can't trust this person. But I was trying to learn in real time, which brings us to step number 2. Step number 2 is boundaries versus ultimatums. Now, I want to be really clear, because I personally feel like the line between a boundary and ultimatum is so thin. So we're going to go over the definitions together before I finish my story. A boundary is a hard line in the sand, something you are not willing to accept and don't. There's follow through. An ultimatum is a forced choice. If you do this, I'll do that. Or you have to do this. If you don't, I'm going to do that. So what I did was I created some boundaries for myself. And I encourage anyone who's going through a similar situation, hopefully not a violent one, because that's a whole other episode on itself. I encourage you to get out a pen and paper or go into your notes app and write down what your boundaries are. How are you willing to be treated? What are you no longer willing to accept? I wish I still had the notes from this time. I don't, which is so annoying, but I so wish I did. I remember after us sitting down in the Chick-fil-A that day, I went home and I literally wrote a pros and cons list, like on a piece of paper, folded it in half, did the line, pros, cons. A list, long list of cons. Pros, I think there were 3. I think there were 3 pros. I think there were like 27 cons, okay? But that wasn't enough for me. Then I wrote down my boundaries, and my boundaries were very clear. I remember writing something like he was staying over at our place, shared place with my roommate at the time. And I remember writing down like, you are no longer going to be spending the night here. You don't live here. You have to stay home. This is a boundary. You're no longer allowed to spend the night. We're no longer hanging out around my son. And when it came to the conversation that I had with him, okay, we'll get to that. I'm getting ahead of myself. No longer allowed to spend the night. No longer allowed to even hang out or be around my son. I remember no more violent behavior. Like if there was any more violent behavior, it was a hard pass. And there were like 7 of them. Those are like the only 3 that I can remember. But I remember writing them very specific and knowing like if these lines are crossed, I'm out. I'm fucking peace out, brother. Okay? But I knew at that point, like I was so close to being done. Like it was like my last, fuck to give, being like, I know that I did everything in this relationship and I can walk away knowing like it ain't me, sister. A, B, C, D, F, G, I gotta go. When you are creating these boundaries, you really need to take a hard look at yourself and a hard look at that piece of paper and really understand what you're willing to accept and what you're not willing to accept. And this quote cuts so deep for me because this is a game changer. What you are not changing, you're choosing. If you are venting to your friends about your relationship and how much you hate it and how unhappy you are, but doing nothing to change, you're choosing. You're choosing to be unhappy. You're choosing to be in a shitty relationship. You're choosing to be miserable. You're choosing to be treated like shit. And you have to accept that. Like, it's time to look inward. Remember, rule number 1? Time to look inward. Rule number 2, boundaries. Time to set boundaries. Like, are you ready for this? Because, listen, your friends are tired of hearing about it. I recently told one of my girlfriends, I'm going to die if she listens to this. I recently told one of my girlfriends that I'm just going to start manifesting her breakup. And I'm just going to start referring to her as like single and, you know, like ready to mingle and whatever. And I'm like, I'm just going to start manifesting it for you because like you deserve that, girl. Which brings me to rule number 3. I'm going to be so honest. Most of you won't be ready for this step. Instead, you'll do the first 2 and then vent to your best friend for the next 6 months or a year and do absolutely nothing. Because remember, you are choosing it. You are choosing to have something to complain about. You are choosing to be unhappy. And you are choosing to do nothing about it. And that's okay. Like, if you're not ready, I understand. But it's time to stop talking about it. Don't fucking talk about it. Be about it, bitch. I told you this was going to be tough love, okay? I'm going to read from my notes now because I feel like these are really important. How to follow through. And I have some questions for you. So listen to these with a big, big open heart. And be so honest with yourself. Are you ready to be happy? Are you ready to hurt and feel all of the emotions? Do you have people who love and support you? Are you ready to step into the fullest version of yourself? Are you ready to leave your misery? I didn't think I was going to get emotional. Or your miserable situation behind? Because you have to answer yes to all of these questions. It's going to feel like the hardest thing you've ever done in your life. And you're going to have your number 1 supporter on speed dial. Is that even a thing anymore? All the Gen Zs are going to be like, what the fuck is speed dial? Remember those boundaries because now it's time to enforce them. It took 7 days for my ex to break those boundaries. 7 days. After we had that conversation, I read all those boundaries to him in person, to his face, and I told him, if these things get broken, this relationship is over. It took 7 days for him to go really fucking crazy. And I think I got so emotional just now because this was a huge turning point in my life. And the story that I'm about to share was very traumatic and only the beginning of the emotional trauma and toll that this person vindictively brought upon my life. The night that he broke those boundaries again, my roommate was out of town. We used to have a key box outside of our door that we would keep a house key in. We only a handful of us knew the code because this was a time in our lives where we'd go out to Old Town, to Mill, go party a lot, and we just didn't want to carry stuff on us. So we would keep our key at home on the door. This is important for the story later. And that night, my roommate was out of town. I was going to sleep over at my girlfriend's house. I didn't have my son. I had a mom's night out. I was going to sleep over at one of my girlfriend's houses. And I was going to meet up with my man at the time. Ew. I was going to meet up with my crazy ass ex at the time. Or my wow, this got difficult. I was going to meet up with my boyfriend at the time, the crazy one, and split the night in half. He was giving me all of this shit about going out with my girlfriends and like wanting to hang out with me and whatever. I told him I would meet him out later at 12. So I drove my car to my girlfriend's house and we went to downtown Gilbert. We went out until like 11 o'clock and I think I was planning on sleeping over at her house that night. I brought a bag of clothes. My car was over there. Left my keys over there. Then we Ubered out. Around 12 o'clock, I was like, I'm going to go hang out with him. He's in Tempe, so I'm just going to take an Uber over there and I'll meet you at your house later. She's like, okay, whatever, no big deal. Wasn't a fan of it, but no big deal. I go down to Tempe. He's there with his friends and he's just acting weird, you know, and I'm sure there was chaos or whatever, another girl or whatever it may be, but he was acting weird and being disrespectful to the point where he was yelling at me outside of one of the bars so aggressively that multiple people stopped and asked me if I was okay. And in that moment, of course, I said, I'm fine. Like, I got it handled, but thanks. And I was over it. I was like, look at what I'm dealing with. I'm looking at the situation of people, strangers, stopping and asking if I was okay because of the yelling and, you know, whatever rude shit he was saying to me in public. And I was like, you know what? I'm done. This is over. I'm done with you. I broke up with him out standing on the side of Mill and I called a cab. Well, this is like where it took a turn for the worse. He freaked out and was like, you're not breaking up with me. You're not leaving. And I'm like, the cab rolled up. He's trying to get into the cab with me. I told the driver, this is not his ride. He's not allowed to come in this car. And I'm not getting in the vehicle if he does. It got to the point where he ended up storming off, being upset. And I went back to my house. Now, remember, all of my shit was at my girlfriend's house, and including my charger, my car, my keys. I got to my house because I was just like, I need to get out of here. And then that's when I realized none of my shit is here. My phone was on 3%. I called a cab and I was inside my house. The door was locked. And the next thing I know, someone's walking into my house. He took a cab to my house, unlocked the door because he knew the passcode for the key. And when he walked through the door, he immediately grabbed my phone out of my hand and refused to let me leave. And it was in this moment that I felt so vulnerable to what this person could do to me. It was scary. It scared the shit out of me. I told him, you're not allowed, like, you can't just walk into my house, give me my phone. I remember like him trying to chase me around the kitchen because I was trying to like exit the door and he kept blocking off the door. And the next thing I knew, I heard the Lyft, because I remember I called a cab and I heard the Lyft notification. So I'm like, I just need to get out of the house. If I can get out of the house, this Lyft is going to take me to safety to my friend's house. I finally was able to get out unharmed. Well, physically unharmed. And I get down to the Lyft. I'm a mess, okay? I've been drinking. I'm like, felt like in that moment he could have beat me and like no one was there to help me. So I'm sobbing. I'm hyperventilating. I'm going through this traumatic experience. I go down to the Lyft. I'm like, my ex is here. I broke up with him. He took my phone. He won't let me have it back. I need you to call the police. He comes down calm, cool, and collected as they do. Like, no, man, it's not that big of a deal. And I'm sure I look crazy. I felt fucking crazy. But this is like what these crazy narcissistic people do. They come in cool, calm, and collected. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And like, I'm the one that's like freaking out for no reason. And I looked at the Uber driver and I'm like, I need you to call the police. Can I use your phone to call the police? Like, I don't feel safe. He won't give me my phone. No one's here. The Uber driver looked at me and dead ass said, I'm sorry, but I don't want to be involved, and drove away. Yeah. I was just like, what? Like, how is this happening? Could you imagine? Could you fucking imagine, like, if I did get beat up and then like in that moment, no one cared. I mean, talk about feeling so fucking small. So, after that moment, I was like, fuck this, fuck you. I'm just going to start banging on my neighbors' doors. Someone's got to answer, That's what I did. It ended up freaking my ex out at the time, and he threw my phone at me and presumed to leave. So I got my phone. It had 2%. I was able to call another cab, and he was able to pick me up. This is a long story because I would love to say that that was the end, but it actually just got worse. The other cab picked me up, and I sat in the front seat, and I was just a complete disaster. He was an angel sent from heaven, I swear to God. I was trying to like get out what had happened. He was like, oh my God, are you okay? I'm like, I just need to go to my friend's house. I'm gonna make this long story short so that we can get back to the steps. But as we pulled out of the apartment complex, I'm telling him what just happened. He's like, did something happen with an Uber? I said, yes. He probably thought I just got like freaking sexually assaulted by an Uber driver. I like can't even get words out. I had to like calm myself down, and I'm explaining to him what happened. I broke up with my ex. He forced himself in, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, we're getting on the freeway, and he goes, oh, was that guy in the white truck with the backwards hat leaving your complex, like as he pulled up? And I go, yeah. And he dead ass goes, well, he's right behind us. Dun, dun, dun. Like I told you, it got worse. He didn't actually leave. He waited. He hid down the road or wherever it may be and waited until I got picked up again. We were driving down the freeway, and I kid you not, this man tried to run me and the Uber driver off the road, swerving from lane to lane, cussing out at the window, trying to like run us off the road on the freeway. We ended up having to call the police, make her police report. I ended up at my girlfriend's house, safe and sound. But I had to share the entirety of this story because otherwise I feel like it wouldn't make sense as to like, what was it that really made me leave? And it was the moment where I felt so helpless that he could beat me. I could die in that moment. And I was like, I can't be with this person anymore. Like, that's what it took. That's what it took for me. And I actually just heard this stat today it was from like one of the true crime podcasts or whatever. And they said that they looked up some statistics, and one of them said that when people are in a domestic violence or violent relationship with abuse, that it takes 7 times before the woman decides to leave. 7 times. Whatever that may be. And some don't even see. Some aren't even able to get over to the other side because of the aggression and how far these men will actually go to physically abuse someone. And so that's pretty crazy. For me, physical violence, it took 2 that I can think of. Those were the big ones anyways, the last ones that I had shared. And that night I blocked him on everything. My friend was involved with it because the story does just continue. It wasn't actually over then, but I will continue to share the story as we move on in these solo episodes. And that's when I knew that, like, I'm done. I have to be done. He crossed my boundaries. Because if you allow someone to cross your boundaries, they're honestly like little kids. They're like toddlers. If you tell a toddler, no, you can't have soda before bed, and then you give them soda before bed, the next time they ask for soda before bed, they're going to throw the biggest temper tantrum because they know you already gave in. So once those boundaries get crossed, these men, they know you'll give in. So how many times is it going to take? How many times are you going to give in? 2, 5, 7? Something to think about. Now it's time to stand up for yourself. Rule number 4. This is going to look very selfish because remember, the people that are upset about you creating boundaries are the ones that are benefiting from them the most. You have to stand so hard in your power, you can literally feel the strength from the world beneath your feet. It's a hard fucking no, girl. Be ready to walk away. You set those boundaries and it's time to walk away. And that's exactly what I did. I said, fuck you, motherfucker. But you know what? Unfortunately for me, it didn't stop there. It actually started. This man was so vindictive and like upset that I left him. And he didn't even like me. Like, let's just remember that. I'm pretty sure he told me he didn't even like me when we first met. He was so upset that like the vindictive behavior actually started and got worse after I broke up with him. To the point where, this is gonna sound insane, but I cannot make this shit up. I had to put a restraining order on him because he kept showing up to the places that I was at. So much so, at one point I thought he had a tracker on me, whether it was linked to my phone or in my car. I didn't know, but he kept showing up I was partying and when I say partying, I mean like out in the clubs, drinking a lot back in this time. And he was always at the same club, always showed up at the pool party, interrogating me up in my face, like causing real problems, needing to be like kicked out of bars because he couldn't like stand being in my presence, yet he was always in the same vicinity of where I was. So much so that I had to get a restraining order. I had to continue to stand up for myself so hard through the court system, Making police reports. I think I made 6 police reports before the state could file that he broke his restraining order, which is a whole nother episode in itself. And I think this is where women tend to stray. They feel like they just don't want to deal with it anymore. They just want to be done. But for me, it wasn't done. He kept finding me. He kept showing up. So much so that he actually, 5 days after I served him with the restraining order, I saw his truck parked in our complex again and found out that he was actually living with his new girlfriend who just so happened to live in the same complex as us. I cannot make this up. 5 days after I put the restraining order, he moved into my apartment complex. And it took countless time and energy. So for me, like, I understand when women are like, I just want this to be done. I broke up with him. He's out of my life. He's left me alone. But that doesn't always happen. Like, for me, that didn't happen. He didn't leave me alone. Every single day for 6 months, I got to drive past him, his car, his new girlfriend, as he continued to try to dishevel my life from underneath my feet. I had to hide my son so that he didn't see him in our complex and start asking questions. It was a mental fucking game that almost destroyed me. But I continued to push so hard for my happiness because I knew, I'm like, it literally can't get worse than this. And I think that's what kept me going. That and my strong support system. This series is not over. It's quite literally just the beginning. But thank you for listening. I'm sure this one took you on a fucking wild ride of emotions. The next solo that we have together is going to be step number 5, and that is how to move on. I want to stop here for now because I feel like this next piece is also so crucial. So thank you for listening. It seems weird to ask you guys to comment and subscribe. But if you know someone that's going through something like this and they need, some inspiration or some encouragement or some guidance, or just to feel like they're not alone or doing it alone, please send them this series with love. Send them my page. I'm open to having more conversations. And if you want to leave any comments or inspiration or encouragement yourself on the Spotify or YouTube comments, that would be greatly appreciated. I love you guys. Hot and heavy today. But I'm just happy that I get to use my story in hopes to help other people move forward with their lives, because it was a traumatic time in my life, but I am so much better off now. And hopefully I can continue to help and encourage other women to fully live to their greatest potential, because you deserve happiness.
Are you still talking? Girl, stop talking.